Welcome to Lotus Light Teachings. Here, we journey together into the timeless wisdom of inner peace, mindfulness, and self-discovery. Today's reflection is crafted to inspire and guide you toward a life of clarity and fulfillment. Let's begin this transformative exploration. Thank you for joining us on this path of light and growth. Have you ever felt like you're living in a world of mirrors, where every action reflects back not your true self, but the expectations and judgments of others? Imagine standing in the middle of a serene forest, the sunlight filtering through the trees, and for the first time, there's silence. No chatter, no demands, no comparisons. It's just you and your breath. In that stillness, you realize the greatest journey you'll ever take isn't across oceans or mountains. It's the journey inward. This is where we begin today. Together, we'll explore the timeless wisdom of Buddhism and uncover how focusing on yourself, your thoughts, actions, and inner world can transform your life. This isn't about selfishness or isolation. It's about reclaiming the power to be at peace, no matter what storms rage around you. Let's walk this path together, step by step, and see how focusing on yourself can unlock a life of clarity, strength, and unshakable joy. True happiness comes from within. Imagine for a moment you are sitting beside a calm, glistening lake at sunrise. The water is perfectly still, mirroring the golden hues of the morning sky. As you sit there, a light breeze brushes your skin, and the world feels quiet, at peace. In this moment, there's no need for approval, no fear of rejection, no desire for more. There is only you and the quiet presence of life itself. This serene image holds the essence of the Buddha's teaching. Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. It's a truth so simple yet often forgotten in the rush of modern life. Too often, we tie our happiness to things outside ourselves. Career success, compliments, possessions, or relationships. But the heart of Buddhist wisdom reminds us that lasting happiness, the kind that cannot be shaken, arises not from the world around us but from within our own hearts. Think about the last time you felt truly happy. Was it because someone praised you? Perhaps you reached a goal or received something you desired. Those moments bring joy, of course, but how long does that joy last? An hour? A day? Inevitably, the glow fades, and the chase for the next source of happiness begins. Let me share a story about a man named James. James was an ambitious professional, admired by his colleagues and celebrated for his achievements. From the outside, his life seemed perfect, but on the inside, he felt empty. No amount of accolades could fill the void he carried. He was like a thirsty traveler in a desert, drinking salty water that only deepened his thirst. Every success was fleeting. Every failure amplified his insecurity. One day, overwhelmed by stress, James decided to take a break. He attended a meditation retreat in the countryside, not knowing what to expect. On the first morning, the teacher asked the group to sit in silence and focus on their breath. "Notice the thoughts that come," the teacher said, "but don't cling to them. Let them pass like clouds in the sky." At first, James struggled. His mind raced with thoughts. Emails he hadn't answered, projects waiting for him, whether people would notice he was gone. But as the days passed, something extraordinary happened. In the stillness, he began to feel lighter, as if layers of worry were peeling away. For the first time in years, he felt a glimmer of joy, not from an achievement, but simply from being present. Through meditation, James realized that his happiness had always been conditional, tied to the approval of others and external milestones. He began to practice gratitude for small things: the warmth of the sun on his skin, the sound of birds singing, the simple act of breathing. Over time, he discovered a deep well of contentment within himself, untouched by the chaos of the outside world. James's story illustrates a profound truth. True happiness isn't something we find. It's something we cultivate. It begins with gratitude. When we take a moment to appreciate what we already have, the mind stops grasping for more. Gratitude shifts our focus from scarcity to abundance, reminding us that even the simplest things, a smile, a kind word, the beauty of nature, can bring immense joy. But gratitude is only the beginning. To truly embody the Buddha's teaching, we must also let go of the need for validation. This doesn't mean we stop caring about others. It means we stop letting their opinions control our sense of worth. It's about finding joy in the present moment, even when it's imperfect. Picture a child playing in a park. They aren't worrying about what others think or comparing themselves to anyone else. They're fully absorbed in the joy of the moment, running, laughing, feeling the grass beneath their feet. This natural state of presence and contentment is something we can all return to if we let go of the distractions and pressures of adult life. Of course, this isn't always easy. The world often tells us that happiness comes from achievements, possessions, or relationships. We're bombarded with messages that we need to be more successful, more attractive, more liked. But chasing these things is like running after the horizon. No matter how far you go, it always stays out of reach. To break free from this cycle, we must turn inward. This doesn't mean isolating ourselves from the world. It means creating a sanctuary within ourselves, a place of peace that no one can disturb. Meditation is one way to build this inner sanctuary. By sitting quietly and observing our thoughts, we learn that happiness isn't about silencing the mind, but about making peace with it. Let me share another story, this time about a woman named Maria. Maria worked tirelessly to please everyone around her. Her family, her friends, her colleagues. She felt responsible for their happiness and constantly worried about disappointing them. But no matter how hard she tried, it was never enough. She felt drained, like a candle burning at both ends. One day, Maria read the Buddha's words, "Peace comes from within." The simplicity of the phrase struck her deeply. She began to reflect on how much of her life she had spent seeking peace outside herself. Inspired, she decided to make a small change. Every morning, before starting her day, she spent 5 minutes sitting quietly, focusing on her breath and repeating the phrase, "Peace is within me." At first, it felt strange and unnatural, but she persisted. Over time, those 5 minutes became the most cherished part of her day. She began to notice subtle shifts. She felt less reactive, more patient, and more present. She realized that her worth wasn't defined by how much she did for others, but by the kindness and love she cultivated within herself. Maria's journey reminds us that self-reliance isn't about closing ourselves off from others. It's about finding a balance. When we take care of our inner world, we're better equipped to show up for the people we love. Not out of obligation, but from a place of genuine connection. In our fast-paced world, the idea of slowing down and looking inward can feel counterintuitive. But as the stories of James and Maria show, it's often in the stillness that we find what we've been searching for all along. True happiness doesn't come from the applause of others or the accumulation of things. It comes from a deep sense of peace that arises when we connect with the present moment. So, as you sit here reading this, take a deep breath. Feel the air filling your lungs, the steady rhythm of your heartbeat. In this moment, there is nothing to chase, nothing to prove. There is only you, and that is enough. The next time you find yourself caught in the whirlwind of external demands, remember the stillness of the lake at sunrise. Remember that happiness isn't something the world gives you. It's something you carry within. And when you nurture that inner peace, you'll find that no storm, no matter how fierce, can take it away. Solitude as a source of strength. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself in the heart of a lush, green forest. The air is cool and crisp, carrying with it the faint scent of pine and earth. Sunlight filters gently through the canopy of leaves, creating soft patches of light and shadow on the forest floor. There is no sound but the rhythmic rustle of leaves swaying in the breeze and the occasional chirp of a bird. In this serene stillness, you feel as though the world has paused just for you. It is here, in this solitude, that you begin to hear something often drowned out by the noise of daily life. Your own thoughts, your own breath, your own heartbeat. Solitude has an almost mystical quality. For many, the idea of being alone might evoke feelings of discomfort or fear. In today's fast-paced world, where notifications buzz incessantly and social media draws us into endless streams of other people's lives, being alone can feel unnatural. But in the teachings of Buddhism, solitude is not loneliness. It is a profound and transformative state. It is a chance to turn inward, to connect with your truest self, and to discover strength that no external source can provide. There's a story about a monk who lived in a bustling city filled with the clamor of market stalls, the chatter of passers-by, and the ceaseless hum of activity. Although he was surrounded by people, he felt increasingly disconnected from himself. One day, he decided to leave the city behind and retreat to the mountains, seeking solitude. At first, the quiet was almost unbearable. Without the distractions of noise and companionship, he found himself face to face with his own thoughts, fears, and doubts. But as days turned into weeks, the stillness began to reveal something extraordinary. The monk started noticing the subtle beauty of each moment. The way sunlight danced on the surface of a stream, the gentle rustle of wind through the trees, the profound peace of simply sitting and being. When he eventually returned to the city, he brought with him a calm and clarity that nothing could shake. He had discovered in solitude a strength that came from within. This story illustrates a fundamental truth. Solitude is not an escape from the world, but a return to yourself. It is a space where you can reflect on your thoughts and emotions without judgment, where you can listen to the whispers of your heart and realign with your purpose. In solitude, there is no one to impress, no roles to play, no expectations to meet, only the raw and authentic presence of your being. Many of us fear being alone because we've been conditioned to equate solitude with loneliness. But loneliness comes from feeling disconnected, while solitude is about connection to the self. It's like clearing a foggy window to see the vibrant world inside. When you embrace solitude, you create room to examine your life with honesty and compassion. What are your goals? Are your actions aligned with your values? What truly brings you joy? These are questions we often avoid in the chaos of daily life, but solitude gives us the courage to face them. Imagine a woman named Claire. She was always surrounded by people, colleagues, friends, family. Her calendar was packed with social events, and her phone buzzed constantly with messages. Yet, beneath the surface, she felt a gnawing emptiness. One day, feeling utterly drained, she decided to take a weekend for herself. She drove to a quiet cabin by a lake, leaving her phone behind. At first, the silence was deafening. She fidgeted, restless, unsure of how to fill the time. But slowly, something shifted. She began to notice the stillness of the water, the crispness of the air, the way her own breath felt as it entered and left her body. By the end of the weekend, Claire felt a lightness she hadn't experienced in years. She realized that solitude wasn't a void to be filled, but a sanctuary to be cherished. Solitude also teaches us self-reliance. When you spend time alone, you learn to be your own best companion. You begin to trust your intuition and develop a sense of independence that no external validation can provide. This doesn't mean isolating yourself from others, but rather building an inner foundation so strong that you can stand steady, even when the winds of life grow turbulent. A simple practice can help you cultivate this connection with yourself. Set aside 10 minutes each day to sit quietly, free from distractions. You don't need a fancy meditation cushion or a secluded retreat. Even a quiet corner of your home will do. Close your eyes, focus on your breath, and let your thoughts come and go like waves lapping at the shore. Over time, these moments of stillness can become an anchor, grounding you in the present and helping you navigate life with greater clarity and calm. In the stillness of solitude, something remarkable happens. You begin to notice the beauty of simplicity. The way sunlight filters through a window, the sound of rain tapping on the roof, the warmth of a cup of tea in your hands. These small moments, often overlooked in the rush of daily life, become sources of immense joy. This is the essence of mindfulness, a core teaching of Buddhism, being fully present in the here and now. Let's consider another story, this time about a young artist named Liam. Liam loved painting but found himself paralyzed by self-doubt. He constantly compared his work to others, seeking approval that never seemed to come. Frustrated, he decided to take a break from social media and spend time alone with his art. For weeks, he painted without showing his work to anyone, focusing solely on the process rather than the result. In the quiet of his studio, free from external judgment, Liam rediscovered the pure joy of creation. His strokes became bolder, his colors more vibrant. When he finally shared his work again, it was not with the hope of validation, but with the quiet confidence that came from creating something true to himself. This is the gift of solitude. It allows you to hear your own voice amidst the noise of the world. It gives you the space to grow, to heal, and to become. In solitude, you are free to explore who you are without the weight of expectations. And when you return to the world, you do so not as a fragmented version of yourself, but as someone whole and grounded. The beauty of solitude is that it's always within reach, no matter how busy or chaotic life gets. You don't need to retreat to a mountaintop or escape to a cabin in the woods. Solitude can be found in the quiet moments of everyday life. Sipping your morning coffee, walking in a park, or simply sitting in stillness for a few minutes before bed. These moments, small as they may seem, hold the power to transform. As you read this, take a deep breath and let the words settle. Imagine carving out a pocket of time today just for yourself, free from distractions. What might you discover in that stillness? What strength might you uncover within? Solitude is not a place to hide. It's a place to find yourself. And in finding yourself, you unlock a wellspring of peace and resilience that can carry you through anything. Approval begins with you. Imagine standing in front of a mirror, not just to check your appearance, but to truly look at yourself. What do you see? Beyond the surface, beyond the external, do you see someone deserving of love, kindness, and acceptance? Or is the reflection clouded by doubts and a need for validation from others? The Buddha's words, you, yourself, as much as anyone in the universe, deserve your love and affection, offer a gentle reminder that the approval you seek isn't found in the world around you, but within your own heart. Yet, in our modern lives, we often chase external validation, hoping it will fill the spaces where self-love should reside. Consider the story of Emma. She was always the person others could rely on, at work, in her family, and among her friends. Her days were a constant swirl of doing, giving, and proving her worth. Compliments and recognition became her fuel, but no matter how much she received, it was never enough. Beneath the applause and acknowledgments, she felt hollow, questioning her value when the noise of others' approval faded. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, Emma stumbled upon a quote that resonated deeply. "You cannot pour from an empty cup." The words echoed in her mind. She realized she had been waiting for others to affirm her worth instead of nurturing it herself. Inspired, Emma decided to make a change. She began a simple ritual each night, writing down 3 things she admired about herself. At first, the exercise felt foreign, almost forced. But with time, the list grew, and so did her sense of self-worth. Emma's journey reveals a profound truth. Self-approval isn't about arrogance or self-centeredness. It's about acknowledging your inherent value, independent of external opinions. It's a quiet, steady flame that remains lit even when the winds of criticism or rejection blow. Think about a child learning to walk. They stumble, fall, and cry, but they don't give up. They don't stop to wonder if someone approves of their efforts. They trust themselves and keep trying. That resilience, that unshaken belief in their own ability, is something we are all born with. Over time, however, societal pressures, comparisons, and the constant craving for validation erode that innate trust. Rebuilding it starts with self-acceptance. Imagine yourself as you would a dear friend, someone you cherish and want to see thrive. How would you treat them? Would you criticize their every move or celebrate their progress, however small? Practicing self-love is about offering yourself the same kindness and patience. It's about recognizing that you are a work in progress, and that's perfectly okay. Let me share another story, this time about a man named Daniel. Daniel was an artist, but his greatest passion had always been his greatest insecurity. Every time he completed a painting, he sought feedback from others, his mood rising and falling with their responses. One day, a mentor said something that changed his perspective. Paint for yourself first. If it speaks to you, it will speak to others. The words were a revelation. Daniel began to create not for applause, but for the sheer joy of expression. Over time, he noticed something remarkable. The less he sought approval, the more confident and authentic his work became. People started noticing a depth and honesty in his art that hadn't been there before. This shift mirrors what happens when you turn inward for validation. By focusing on your unique journey and celebrating your progress, you free yourself from the endless cycle of seeking others' approval. You learn to trust your voice, your decisions, and your worth. But this journey isn't without challenges. In a world that often equates worth with external achievements, choosing self-approval can feel like swimming against the tide. Social media amplifies this struggle, with its curated images of success, beauty, and happiness. It's easy to fall into the trap of measuring your value against others. Yet, as the Buddha teaches, the path to peace lies in letting go of these comparisons and turning your gaze inward. Imagine standing at the edge of a forest at dusk. The trees stretch endlessly before you, their silhouettes fading into the gathering shadows. You could focus on how tall or straight the trees are, comparing one to another, or you could simply stand in awe of their quiet strength and beauty. Like the trees, each of us is unique, growing in our own time and way. When you stop comparing, you start appreciating, not just others but yourself. Practical steps can help anchor this mindset. Start by writing down 3 things you admire about yourself each day. They don't have to be grand achievements. Small moments count too. Perhaps you showed kindness to a stranger, persisted through a challenging task, or simply took a moment to rest when you needed it. Over time, this practice shifts your focus from external approval to internal acknowledgement. Another powerful practice is mindfulness. When self-doubt or the need for validation arises, pause and observe your thoughts without judgment. Ask yourself, what do I truly need right now? Often, the answer isn't someone else's approval, but your own kindness and compassion. As you walk this path, you'll notice a subtle but profound change. The opinions of others will lose their power to define your worth. Criticism will sting less, and praise will feel less like a necessity and more like a pleasant bonus. You'll begin to navigate life with a quiet confidence, rooted not in the fleeting opinions of the world, but in the steady foundation of self-approval. Imagine a calm lake at sunrise, its surface smooth and undisturbed. The reflections of the sky and trees are clear, yet they do not alter the lake's essence. This is what it feels like to cultivate self-approval. You remain true to yourself, reflecting the world around you without being shaped by it. As we part, take a moment to reflect on the child within you, the one who once trusted themselves completely. They're still there, waiting for you to reconnect. Remember, you, as much as anyone in the universe, deserve your love and affection. You don't need permission from the world to honor your worth. It begins always with you. Rejection, a redirection. Imagine walking along a forest path as the sun filters through the trees, casting a warm glow on the trail ahead. You're moving with purpose, certain of where you're going, when suddenly, the path ends. A fallen tree blocks your way, and your carefully planned journey comes to a halt. Frustration wells up. Why has this happened? But as you stand there, you notice another trail, half hidden and winding off to the side. With no other choice, you step onto it. At first, the way feels unfamiliar, even unwelcome. Yet, as you continue, the path leads you to a breathtaking clearing. A view so beautiful it leaves you in awe, and you realize that without the obstacle, you would never have found this new and unexpected beauty. This is how life often works. What we perceive as rejection is rarely the end of the road but a redirection, a nudge from the universe, guiding us towards something better suited to our growth. The Buddha's words echo this truth. In the end, only 3 things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. Rejection, in this light, is not a punishment but an invitation to let go, to trust, and to move forward with grace. Rejection stirs deep emotions in all of us. It feels personal, as though it reflects our worth or capabilities. Whether it's losing a job, being turned down in a relationship, or facing failure in a cherished goal, rejection strikes at the heart of our self-esteem. But what if we could shift our perspective? What if we could see rejection not as a verdict on our value but as a signpost, pointing us toward a path we might not have otherwise considered? Let me share the story of Sarah, a young architect whose dream was to work at a prestigious firm. She had spent years honing her skills, pouring her passion into every project, and preparing for the opportunity. When the time came, she confidently applied, certain she was ready. But weeks passed, and then the news arrived. She didn't get the job. The rejection hit her hard. For days, she questioned herself, replaying the interview in her mind and wondering what she could have done differently. But as the initial sting began to fade, Sarah remembered something her mentor once said: "Sometimes, what seems like a setback is actually a setup for something greater." Encouraged, she began looking for other opportunities, though her heart wasn't fully in it. Then she stumbled upon a smaller, lesser-known firm that was seeking someone with her exact skill set. Intrigued, she applied. To her surprise, not only did she get the job, but she found herself working on projects that aligned perfectly with her passion for sustainable design, something the larger firm rarely prioritized. In time, Sarah realized that the rejection she had initially seen as a failure was, in fact, a blessing. It had redirected her to a place where her talents and values could truly shine. Sarah's story isn't unique. How many times in life have we clung to something, convinced it was the best or only option, only to later discover that letting go opened the door to something far better? The key lies in how we respond to rejection. Do we resist it, holding on to resentment and self-doubt? Or do we embrace it, trusting that it may be part of a larger plan? Letting go with grace is not easy. It requires courage, humility, and faith in the unknown. But it's also one of the most liberating acts we can undertake. When we release our attachment to what didn't work out, we make space for new possibilities to enter our lives. Imagine a man named David, who spent years building a startup he believed in with all his heart. He poured his savings, energy, and hope into the venture, but despite his efforts, the business failed. Devastated, he felt like he had lost everything, not just financially, but personally. For months, he struggled to find meaning in the loss. But slowly, as he began to reflect, he realized that the experience had taught him invaluable lessons about resilience, adaptability, and leadership. Armed with this newfound wisdom, David joined another startup as a partner, bringing with him insights that helped the new venture thrive. What he initially saw as rejection had become a redirection, leading him to a role where he could contribute and grow even more. Rejection can also teach us about impermanence, a core concept in Buddhism. Life is ever-changing, and clinging to what was or what we wished for only creates suffering. Instead, we are called to flow with life, accepting its twists and turns with an open heart. This doesn't mean we won't feel pain or disappointment. It's natural to grieve what we've lost. But beneath the surface of that pain lies an opportunity to grow, to adapt, and to discover strength we didn't know we had. Think of rejection as a storm that clears the air. It may shake you, drench you, and obscure your vision for a time. But when it passes, the world often feels fresher, more vibrant. And in the clarity that follows, you may find a new path, one that was waiting all along, hidden until the storm revealed it. There's a simple practice you can try when faced with rejection. Take a moment to breathe deeply and center yourself. Write down what you hoped for and why it mattered to you. Then, gently ask yourself, what might this rejection be teaching me? Where could it be guiding me? At first, the answers may not be clear, but with time and reflection, patterns often emerge. Rejection also teaches us about resilience, the ability to bounce back, to keep going even when the road ahead seems uncertain. Consider a bamboo tree. For years, it appears to grow very little, its progress almost invisible. But beneath the surface, its roots are spreading wide and deep. Then, seemingly overnight, the tree shoots up, growing rapidly. In the same way, moments of rejection can feel like stagnation, but they are often preparing us for unexpected growth. As you reflect on the times you've faced rejection, think about what came next. Did you discover new strengths, forge new relationships, or find opportunities you hadn't imagined? If you're in the midst of rejection now, remember, this is not the end of your story. The path ahead may be different from what you envisioned, but it holds its own beauty and promise. In the quiet stillness of your heart, trust that rejection is not a closing door but an open window. Through it, The breeze of possibility flows, carrying with it the whispers of new beginnings. Let go, move forward, and embrace the journey with grace. Life, in its infinite wisdom, has a way of leading you exactly where you're meant to be. Let go of fear of judgment. Imagine standing in an open field, the horizon stretching endlessly before you. The sky is vast, painted in soft hues of blue and gold, and the gentle rustle of the wind plays like a quiet melody in the background. In this serene expanse, there's no one watching, no one whispering, no one judging. It's just you and the boundless freedom of being yourself. This is the space where the fear of judgment no longer exists, a space where you can finally breathe. But in our daily lives, the field often feels crowded. Every step can feel like it's being scrutinized, every choice weighed by invisible eyes. The fear of judgment is a heavy burden, one that shapes our actions, our words, even our dreams. Yet, Buddhism offers us a liberating perspective. The judgments of others are not about us. They reflect their own perceptions, experiences, and inner struggles. There's a story about a farmer in a small village who grew his crops using unconventional methods. His neighbors would often gather at the edge of his fields, whispering and pointing fingers. "What is he doing?" they would say. "That's not the way it's done." But the farmer would simply smile and continue his work. When asked why he didn't defend himself, he replied, "The crops I grow are for my family, not for approval. Their opinions don't change the taste of the fruit." The farmer's wisdom reminds us that living authentically means focusing on our own journey, not on the noise of others' opinions. Their judgments, like passing clouds, might momentarily shadow our light, but they cannot alter the essence of who we are. Think about the last time you held yourself back because of what others might think. Perhaps you wanted to express an idea, wear something bold, or pursue a passion, but the fear of judgment stopped you. It's a common experience, one rooted in our innate desire to belong and be accepted. Yet, this fear often binds us more tightly than any external restraint. It whispers doubts into our ears. What if they don't like it? What if they don't understand? And so, we shrink ourselves, fitting into molds that were never meant for us. But what if, instead of fearing judgment, we could let it go? What if we could trust that our worth isn't tied to others' opinions, but to the values we live by? The next time you feel the weight of judgment, pause and ask yourself, am I living true to my values? If the answer is yes, then you're already on the right path. Others' opinions become as irrelevant as a passing breeze. Let me share the story of Maya, an artist who loved to paint bold, abstract pieces. Her work was a reflection of her emotions, vivid, chaotic, and unapologetically raw. Yet, whenever she exhibited her art, she braced herself for criticism. And sure enough, it came. "This isn't real art," someone once told her. "It's too messy, too emotional." Those words stung, and for a while, Maya stopped painting altogether. She doubted her talent, her vision, even her right to create. But one day, as she sorted through her old paintings, she found a note she had written to herself years ago. "Paint for the joy of it. Paint because it feels like breathing." Reading those words, Maya realized she had been creating for others, not for herself. Inspired, she picked up her brushes again, not to seek approval but to express her truth. Over time, the criticisms lost their power, and her art flourished. The same people who once dismissed her work began to praise its uniqueness. But by then, Maya had learned that her validation didn't come from them, came from within. Maya's journey teaches us that we cannot control others' thoughts, and trying to do so is an exhausting endeavor. People's judgments often stem from their own insecurities, biases, or limited perspectives. When someone criticizes you, it says more about them than about you. Recognizing this can be incredibly freeing. It allows you to focus your energy on what truly matters, living authentically and staying true to your purpose. Imagine a mountain stream, flowing freely over rocks and through valleys. Sometimes, leaves or twigs fall into the water, momentarily disrupting its course. But the stream doesn't stop. It doesn't try to push the obstacles away. Instead, it flows around them, continuing on its path. In the same way, we can learn to flow around judgment, letting it exist without letting it hinder us. Cultivating this mindset takes practice, especially in a world where social media amplifies the fear of judgment. Every post, every photo, every word feels subject to scrutiny. But remember, you are not here to please everyone. You are here to live a life that feels true and meaningful to you. Start small. The next time you feel judged, instead of reacting or overthinking, take a deep breath and remind yourself of your values. Are you acting with integrity, kindness, or courage? If so, that's what matters. Write these moments down in a journal. Times when you stayed true to yourself despite the noise. Over time, these reflections become a source of strength, a reminder of your resilience. Letting go of the fear of judgment doesn't mean ignoring feedback or closing yourself off to others. It means discerning which voices deserve your attention. Constructive criticism can help you grow, but unnecessary negativity can be left behind, like stones too heavy to carry. Picture yourself as a bird soaring high in the sky. From above, the world's chatter fades into the distance, and all that remains is the wind beneath your wings and the open expanse of possibility. This is what it feels like to release the fear of judgment. You are no longer tethered by the need for approval. You are free. As we journey through life, there will always be those who misunderstand us, criticize us, or try to impose their expectations on us. But we have the power to choose how we respond. By focusing on our own path, trusting our inner compass, and living in alignment with our values, we can rise above judgment. We can walk through the crowded field with the serenity of someone who knows their worth, unaffected by the opinions that swirl around them. In the quiet of your own heart, you already know who you are. Trust that. Let it guide you. And the next time someone questions your choices, smile like the farmer and remember, your crops are not for their approval. They are for you, and that is enough. Balance compassion with boundaries. Imagine a serene pond in the early morning. The water is still, reflecting the soft glow of the sky. A gentle ripple forms as a leaf falls, creating concentric circles that spread outward, touching the edges of the pond without disturbing its peace. This is what true compassion feels like. A steady wellspring that nourishes those it touches while maintaining its own calm center. But what happens when too many leaves fall at once, stirring the pond into chaos? Even the most tranquil waters can become overwhelmed. This is why balancing compassion with boundaries is essential. Compassion is a beautiful force. It connects us to others, inspires acts of kindness, and fosters a sense of shared humanity. But sometimes, in our eagerness to help, we forget an important truth. You cannot pour from an empty cup. When we sacrifice our own peace and well-being to meet others' needs, we risk depleting ourselves, leaving little to give. Buddhism reminds us that true compassion begins with understanding and caring for ourselves. There's a story about a wise monk who lived in a village where people often came to him for advice. He would listen patiently, offering words of wisdom and comfort. One day, a villager brought a seemingly endless list of grievances. The monk listened, but when the man started repeating himself, the monk gently raised his hand. "I will help you if I can," he said. "But first, I must tend to my own mind. If my mind becomes agitated, my advice will lose its clarity, and I will be of no use to you or anyone else." The villager was surprised but realized the monk was teaching him something profound. Helping others must come from a place of balance and inner strength, not exhaustion or obligation. In modern life, the struggle to balance compassion with boundaries is common. Think about Sarah, a nurse who devoted herself entirely to her patients. She would stay late, skip meals, and ignore her own health to care for others. At first, she felt fulfilled, but over time, the strain began to show. She became irritable, fatigued, and distant from her own family. One day, during a meditation class, she heard the phrase, "Compassion without boundaries leads to burnout." This struck her deeply. She realized that by neglecting her own needs, she wasn't giving her best to anyone. Not her patients, not her loved ones, and certainly not herself. Sarah decided to make changes. She started setting small boundaries, like taking her lunch break without interruptions and saying no to extra shifts when she felt overwhelmed. At first, she felt guilty, but as her energy returned, so did her joy in helping others. She learned that boundaries are not walls to keep people out, but bridges that allow us to care for ourselves and others simultaneously. This balance is delicate but vital. Imagine your compassion as a garden. Without care, the soil becomes dry, the plants wither, and the beauty fades. To keep the garden flourishing, you must nurture it, watering the roots, pulling the weeds, and sometimes letting it rest in the shade. In the same way, setting boundaries is not selfish. It's a way of tending to the source of your compassion. Learning to say no is an essential skill in this process. Many of us hesitate to say no because we fear disappointing others or being seen as unkind. But saying no with kindness and clarity is an act of respect, both for yourself and the other person. It allows you to give wholeheartedly when you say yes, without resentment or regret. Consider how you might phrase a gentle no. Instead of a flat refusal, you could say, "I'd love to help, but I need to focus on something important right now. Can we revisit this later?" This approach acknowledges the other person's needs while honoring your own limits. It's a way of showing compassion for yourself as well as for them. Boundaries also help us give from a place of strength. When your energy is balanced, your acts of kindness become more meaningful. Think about a time when you helped someone out of obligation versus when you helped with genuine enthusiasm. The difference is palpable, not just to you but to the recipient. Giving from a full heart creates a ripple effect, spreading positivity and connection. Let me share the story of James, a teacher who loved his students deeply. He often stayed late to tutor struggling kids and spent weekends planning lessons. But his dedication came at a cost. He rarely spent time with his own family, and his health began to suffer. One evening, his daughter asked, "Daddy, why do you always help everyone else but never have time to play with me?" Her words hit him like a lightning bolt. He realized that his constant giving was draining him, leaving little for the people who mattered most. James decided to set boundaries. He scheduled specific times for tutoring and stuck to them, allowing himself evenings and weekends to recharge. At first, it felt uncomfortable. What if his students needed him? But he soon found that his refreshed energy made him a better teacher. He was more patient, more creative, and more present. By protecting his time, he was able to give more fully when it mattered. Boundaries are not just about saying no. They're also about defining how you engage with the world. They help you prioritize what truly matters and let go of what doesn't serve you. Think of them as the frame around a painting. Without a frame, the painting might blend into the background or become overshadowed by other elements. The frame provides structure, highlighting the beauty within. In the same way, boundaries highlight the essence of your compassion, ensuring it shines brightly without being overshadowed by exhaustion. Buddhism encourages us to practice balance in all aspects of life. The middle way, a core principle of Buddhist teachings, emphasizes avoiding extremes, whether it's overindulgence or excessive self-denial. Compassion with boundaries embodies this principle. It allows you to care deeply for others while maintaining your own well-being. Incorporating this balance into daily life can start with small steps. Set aside time each day for yourself, whether it's 10 minutes of meditation, a walk in nature, or simply sitting quietly with a cup of tea. Reflect on your boundaries and consider where they might need adjustment. Are there areas where you're giving too much? Are there moments when you need to say no but hesitate? Trust that by respecting your own needs, you are strengthening your ability to help others. As you embrace this practice, you may notice a shift. The weight of obligation will lighten, replaced by a sense of freedom and authenticity. Your acts of kindness will feel more genuine, and your connections with others will deepen. You'll find that compassion, when balanced with boundaries, becomes a source of joy rather than a burden. Picture yourself once again as the serene pond. With each thoughtful act of self-care, the water becomes clearer, the ripples more harmonious. You are still connected to those around you, but your peace remains intact. This is the beauty of balanced compassion, a gift to yourself and to the world. Master your mind, master your life. Imagine standing on the shore of a vast, still lake at dawn. The surface is so calm it mirrors the sky above, a perfect reflection of light and color. Even when a breeze stirs the air, creating ripples on the water, the depths remain undisturbed, holding their tranquil essence. Now imagine that this lake is your mind, peaceful, steady, and resilient, no matter what storms may pass through the world around you. This is the wisdom Buddha offered when he said, "Rule your mind, or it will rule you." It is a call to master the thoughts that shape our lives and to cultivate a sense of inner peace that external chaos cannot touch. Life is often unpredictable. Challenges arise, plans falter, and emotions can surge like waves in a storm. In those moments, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, to let your mind spiral into worry, anger, or despair. But what if you could anchor yourself, finding stability in the midst of turbulence? Mastering your mind doesn't mean silencing it or suppressing your feelings. Instead, it's about observing your thoughts with compassion and curiosity, choosing how to respond rather than reacting impulsively. Think of a woman named Claire. She was an executive at a fast-paced company, juggling deadlines, meetings, and a constant stream of demands. Her mind was like a racing river, tumbling over itself with anxieties and to-do lists. The stress began to take a toll on her health, her relationships, and her sense of self. One evening, after yet another sleepless night, Claire stumbled upon a mindfulness practice in a book. Intrigued but skeptical, she decided to give it a try. The exercise was simple. Sit quietly and focus on your breath. Each time a thought arose, she was instructed to notice it without judgment and then gently return her attention to her breath. At first, Claire found it almost impossible. Her mind kept wandering, and she grew frustrated with herself. But with time and patience, she began to notice subtle changes. She could catch her thoughts before they spiraled into stress, and she learned to pause before reacting to difficult situations. Over weeks and months, Claire discovered a quiet strength within her, a resilience she didn't know she had. Her work became more focused, her relationships deepened, and she felt a newfound sense of peace, even on the busiest days. Claire's story illustrates the power of mindfulness, a cornerstone of mastering the mind. Mindfulness isn't about emptying your mind or achieving a perfect state of calm. It's about being present, fully experiencing the moment without being carried away by judgment or distraction. When you practice mindfulness, you create space between a stimulus and your response, allowing you to choose how to act rather than reacting out of habit or emotion. Imagine a man named Daniel who faced constant criticism at his job. Every comment felt like a personal attack, and his frustration would boil over into arguments at home. But when Daniel began practicing mindfulness, something shifted. Instead of letting his anger flare, he started noticing the physical sensations that accompanied it. A tightening in his chest, a clenching of his jaw. By observing these sensations without judgment, he could pause and take a deep breath before responding. Over time, Daniel found that he could address criticism more constructively and communicate with his family more lovingly. He had learned to master his mind, and in doing so, he began to transform his life. Mastering the mind also means letting go of the need to control everything outside yourself. It's natural to want situations and people to align with your expectations, but this attachment often leads to frustration and disappointment. The truth is, the only thing you truly have control over is your own mind, your thoughts, your attitudes, and your reactions. When you shift your focus inward, you reclaim your power. Picture a still lake again. Now imagine someone tossing a stone into the water. The surface ripples, but soon it settles, returning to its serene state. Your mind can be like this lake. External events may create ripples, moments of stress, sadness, or anger. But when you cultivate inner calm, those ripples don't define you. You learn to let them pass, trusting that the stillness beneath remains. A technique that can help is labeling your thoughts. When you notice your mind wandering, simply name what you're experiencing: worry, planning, anger, or joy. This simple act of acknowledgement creates distance between you and your thoughts, reminding you that they are not who you are, they are simply passing phenomena. With practice, you begin to see your thoughts as clouds drifting across the sky, not as fixed truths that control your life. Consider another story, this time about a young artist named Maya. Maya was deeply passionate about her work but constantly doubted herself. Every stroke of the brush was accompanied by a stream of self-critical thoughts. This isn't good enough. No one will like it. These thoughts became so overwhelming that Maya stopped painting altogether. One day, a friend suggested she try meditation. Skeptical but desperate, Maya agreed. During her first session, Maya was instructed to sit with her self-critical thoughts, not to push them away but to observe them. At first, the thoughts seemed louder than ever, but as she continued, she noticed something remarkable. The thoughts began to lose their power. They were still there, but they felt less like an unshakable truth and more like background noise. Encouraged, Maya returned to her studio. This time, when the self-doubt arose, she greeted it like an old acquaintance. "Ah, there you are again." And then she kept painting. Maya's art flourished, not because she silenced her mind, but because she learned to coexist with it, choosing to act despite her doubts. This is the essence of mastering your mind. It's not about erasing thoughts or feelings, but about shifting your relationship with them. When you learn to observe your mind with curiosity and compassion, you create the freedom to choose your path, unburdened by fear or self-criticism. In the rush of modern life, it's easy to lose touch with this inner calm. Notifications buzz, deadlines loom, and the world demands our constant attention. But amidst the noise, there is always a stillness within you, waiting to be rediscovered. Taking even a few minutes each day to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and observe your thoughts can help you reconnect with this stillness. Over time, these moments of mindfulness become an anchor, grounding you in the present and guiding you through life's challenges with grace. As you walk this journey, remember that mastering your mind is not a destination but a practice, a gentle, ongoing process of returning to yourself. Each time you choose to pause, to breathe, to observe rather than react, you take another step toward the serene lake within. And in mastering your mind, you begin to master your life, creating a reality that reflects not the chaos of the world, but the peace of your own heart. Stop social comparison. Picture yourself walking along a quiet forest trail. The sunlight filters softly through the trees, dappling the ground in warm, golden hues. The air is fresh, carrying the faint scent of pine and earth. You walk at your own pace, your feet crunching gently on the path. There's no hurry, no need to match anyone else's stride. It's just you, your breath, and the rhythm of your steps. Now imagine someone else appears on the trail. They walk faster than you, their footsteps loud and purposeful. Suddenly, you feel a pang of inadequacy. Should you be walking faster too? Your peaceful rhythm falters as doubt creeps in. This is what social comparison feels like, a disruption of your unique journey. Buddhism teaches us that each person's path is their own. Like the trees in a forest, we grow in different shapes and sizes, each reaching for the sun in our own way. Yet, in the modern world, comparison has become second nature. Social media, advertisements, and even casual conversations often highlight others' successes, making us question our own. But the truth is, when we compare, we rob ourselves of the joy that comes from appreciating where we are and how far we've come. Consider the story of Emma, a young woman who loved running. For years, she ran in the early mornings, relishing the quiet streets and the steady rhythm of her breath. It was her time to connect with herself, to feel alive and strong. But one day, she decided to join a local marathon. As she ran, she noticed others passing her. Runners with longer strides, faster paces, and seemingly endless energy. Doubt began to cloud her mind. Why am I so slow? I'll never be as good as them, she thought. By the time she crossed the finish line, her sense of accomplishment was overshadowed by a deep feeling of inadequacy. But later, as she sat with her thoughts, Emma realized something profound. The joy she once found in running had nothing to do with how fast she was or how she compared to others. It was about the freedom she felt, the strength in her legs, and the peace in her mind. She decided to shift her focus back to her personal journey. The next time she ran, she stopped looking at others and instead set her sights on her own goals. She celebrated every step, every mile, every moment of progress. And in doing so, she rediscovered the joy that comparison had taken away. Emma's story is a reminder that when we focus on others, we lose sight of our own path. Comparison diminishes gratitude, replacing it with envy and frustration. But when we turn our attention inward, we can begin to appreciate our unique journey, recognizing the beauty in our own growth. Think of life as a garden. Each flower blooms in its own time, some early, some late, each with its own color and fragrance. Comparing one flower to another misses the point. The garden's beauty lies in its diversity. Similarly, your journey is yours alone, shaped by your experiences, choices, and dreams. No one else has walked your path or faced your challenges, and no one else can measure your progress. Social media often exacerbates the trap of comparison. We scroll through carefully curated images of success, beauty, and happiness, forgetting that these snapshots rarely tell the whole story. It's like seeing a single frame of a movie and assuming we know the plot. The reality is, everyone has struggles, doubts, and setbacks, things that don't always make it onto the screen. By comparing our behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel, we set ourselves up for unnecessary suffering. Consider Jacob, a musician who loved playing the guitar. He often shared his music online, but after a while, he began comparing his videos to others. Their playing seemed more polished, their songs more creative. He started doubting his talent, questioning whether he was good enough. One day, a friend reminded him, "Your music isn't meant to be a competition. It's an expression of your soul." Those words stayed with him. Jacob decided to focus on what he loved about music, the joy of creating, the way it made him feel alive. He stopped worrying about likes and views and began playing for himself again. Over time, he found his unique voice, and his passion flourished. Jacob's experience shows us that focusing on our own progress can be deeply liberating. When we let go of the need to compare, we create space for self-discovery and growth. Instead of striving to outdo others, we can strive to become the best version of ourselves. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to comparison. When we focus on what we have, rather than what we lack, we cultivate contentment. Take a moment to reflect on your own journey. What challenges have you overcome? What strengths have you developed? What moments of joy have brought light to your life? These are the things that truly matter, not how you measure up to someone else, but how you honor your own path. Imagine a marathon where every runner is focused on their personal best. Some run fast, others slow, but each is immersed in their own experience, finding joy in their unique pace. Life is much the same. There will always be those ahead of you and those behind you, but the only race that matters is the one you run with yourself. If you find yourself slipping into comparison, try this simple practice. Take a deep breath and shift your focus. Instead of thinking, "They're better than me," ask yourself, "What can I learn from them?" Instead of envying someone's success, celebrate it and let it inspire you. And most importantly, remind yourself of your own accomplishments, however small they may seem. In the stillness of your mind, imagine a path winding through a forest. It's your path, unique and unrepeatable, shaped by the steps you've taken and the steps still to come. Trust in its beauty. Trust that it will lead you where you're meant to go. And as you walk, let go of the need to compare. Your journey is enough, and so are you. Recognize that people are focused on themselves. Imagine walking into a crowded room. Conversations hum like a gentle buzz of bees, people's laughter echoes softly, and the air is alive with activity. For a moment, you feel all eyes on you, as if every detail of your appearance, every move you make, is being examined under a magnifying glass. But here's the truth. Most of those people are far too absorbed in their own thoughts, worries, and insecurities to notice you in the way you imagine. This realization is like stepping into a calm, quiet clearing in the midst of the noise. It's liberating, isn't it? The fear of being judged can feel suffocating. We carefully curate our actions, words, and even our appearance to fit into what we think others expect of us. Yet, in doing so, we often lose touch with our true selves. Buddhism teaches that this fear stems not from reality but from an illusion, that others are constantly scrutinizing us. The truth is far simpler and much kinder. Most people are so preoccupied with their own lives that they barely have time to judge ours. Consider a young woman named Laura. For years, she spent hours each morning choosing the perfect outfit, applying makeup meticulously, and analyzing her reflection from every angle. She was afraid of standing out for the wrong reasons, of being criticized or judged by those around her. One day, a friend shared a simple thought with her. "Do you spend all your time judging others?" Laura was taken aback. "No," she replied. "I'm usually too busy worrying about myself." The friend smiled. Exactly. This insight sparked a shift in Laura's perspective. She began experimenting with dressing for her own comfort and joy rather than to meet some imagined standard. At first, it felt strange, even rebellious. But to her surprise, she noticed something remarkable. People didn't criticize her as she had feared. In fact, many admired her newfound confidence. Laura realized that by focusing less on what others might think, she had opened a door to living more authentically. When we cling to the idea that others are constantly watching and judging us, we place ourselves in a kind of invisible prison. Every action feels calculated, every word second-guessed. But when we let go of this illusion, we free ourselves to live in alignment with our true values and desires. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent to others, but understanding that their opinions do not define our worth. Think about a moment when you hesitated to do something because you were afraid of what people might think. Perhaps you wanted to speak up in a meeting, wear something bold, or share a personal piece of art. That hesitation is the voice of self-doubt, amplified by the fear of judgment. Now imagine if you could silence that voice, even for a moment. How would your life change? What risks might you take? What dreams might you pursue? There's a story about a man named Mark who loved to dance but felt self-conscious about his lack of formal training. He avoided dance floors at weddings, skipped parties, and kept his passion hidden. One day, he saw an older man joyfully dancing in a park, completely unbothered by his unconventional moves. Inspired, Mark decided to let go of his fear. The next time music played, he joined in, his movements unpolished but filled with joy. To his surprise, instead of laughing, people smiled and even joined him. Mark discovered that his freedom inspired others to embrace their own. This story highlights a powerful truth. When you live authentically, you often give others permission to do the same. Your courage to be yourself can ripple outward, encouraging those around you to let go of their own fears and judgments. Redirecting energy from worrying about others to focusing on yourself is a transformative practice. Start by asking yourself simple questions. What do I truly enjoy? What kind of life do I want to create? These reflections help you reconnect with your inner compass, guiding you toward decisions that align with your values. Imagine your mind as a garden. When you spend too much time worrying about others, it's like watering weeds. They grow and crowd out the flowers. But when you turn your attention inward, tending to your own growth, the garden flourishes. You develop clarity, confidence, and a sense of purpose that no amount of external validation can replace. This practice doesn't mean disregarding others entirely. It's about striking a balance, respecting others' perspectives without letting them dictate your choices. Consider a musician who loves composing experimental pieces. If they constantly tried to please every listener, their music would lose its uniqueness. But by staying true to their vision, they create something genuine, something that resonates deeply with those who connect with it. The fear of judgment often stems from our own insecurities. When we judge ourselves harshly, we project that fear outward, imagining that others see us in the same critical light. By practicing self-compassion, we can begin to soften these inner judgments. Take a moment to reflect on your strengths, achievements, and qualities you appreciate about yourself. Celebrate these aspects, no matter how small they may seem. Imagine a world where everyone let go of the fear of judgment. People would speak their truths more freely, pursue their passions without hesitation, and connect with one another on a deeper level. It's a vision worth striving for, and it begins with each of us choosing to live authentically. As you move through life, remind yourself of this simple truth. Most people are too focused on their own journey to scrutinize yours. Their thoughts, like fleeting clouds, pass and dissipate, Meanwhile, your path remains unique and yours to walk. Trust in its beauty, trust in yourself, and let the opinions of others drift away like leaves on a gentle stream, leaving you free to flow with the current of your true self. Prioritize inner growth. Picture yourself in a quiet, sunlit garden. The air is crisp, filled with the faint aroma of blooming flowers. A gentle breeze rustles the leaves, and somewhere in the distance, birds sing their morning song. You are tending to this garden, not hurriedly, but with calm intention. Every weed you pull, every seed you plant, is a step toward creating a space of harmony and beauty. This garden is your inner self, and caring for it is the essence of prioritizing inner growth. The Buddhist path reminds us that true transformation begins within. External validation, no matter how sweet, is fleeting, like a flower that blooms brilliantly but wilts by evening. In contrast, inner growth is enduring, a deep wellspring of fulfillment that sustains us through life's challenges. When you focus on cultivating qualities like patience, compassion, and mindfulness, you create a foundation of peace that no external force can shake. Let me share the story of a king who once sought the secret to peace. Troubled by the constant demands of ruling his kingdom, he visited a wise monk and asked, "How can I find peace amidst the chaos?" The monk handed him a bowl of water and said, "Walk around the monastery with this bowl, but do not spill a drop." The king, puzzled but determined, began his walk. He moved slowly, his eyes fixed on the bowl, his mind focused entirely on the task. When he returned, the monk smiled and asked, "Did you notice the birds singing? The flowers blooming?" The king shook his head. "I was too focused on the bowl." The monk replied, "And so it is with peace. When you focus inward, the distractions of the world fade." This story illustrates a profound truth. Inner growth is about directing your attention to what truly matters. It's not about ignoring the world, but about grounding yourself so firmly in your own values and mindfulness that external chaos cannot disturb your peace. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to measure success by external milestones, promotions, possessions, accolades. While these achievements can bring temporary satisfaction, they often leave us yearning for more. Have you ever reached a goal, only to find yourself immediately setting another, unable to savor the moment? This cycle stems from seeking fulfillment outside ourselves. Inner growth, on the other hand, shifts the focus inward, where true contentment resides. Consider Sophia, a high-achieving professional who built an impressive career. On paper, she had it all: awards, recognition, a beautiful home. Yet, despite her success, she felt a persistent emptiness. Driven by curiosity, she attended a mindfulness retreat. There, she learned to meditate, to sit quietly with her thoughts, and to observe her emotions without judgment. At first, it was uncomfortable. Her mind resisted the stillness. But over time, Sophia began to notice subtle changes. She became less reactive to criticism, more patient with her colleagues, and more present in her daily life. What she once sought from others, approval and validation, she found within herself. Her peace inspired those around her, encouraging them to reflect on their own emotional balance. Sophia's transformation highlights the power of prioritizing inner growth. When you cultivate self-awareness, you become less dependent on external validation. Criticism loses its sting, praise feels less essential, and your sense of worth becomes rooted in who you are, not in what you achieve. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but with practice, it becomes a way of life. Mindfulness is a cornerstone of inner growth. Imagine your mind as a vast sky, with thoughts and emotions passing through like clouds. When you practice mindfulness, you observe these clouds without clinging to them or pushing them away. This perspective creates space for clarity and self-awareness, allowing you to respond to life's challenges with wisdom rather than impulsiveness. Take Daniel, for example, a father who struggled with anger. His children's playful chaos often triggered his frustration, leading to arguments and regret. Seeking change, Daniel began a daily meditation practice. By sitting quietly and focusing on his breath, he learned to recognize the early signs of anger: tightness in his chest, a quickening heartbeat. This awareness allowed him to pause, take a deep breath, and choose a calmer response. Over time, his relationships with his children transformed, becoming more playful and loving. Daniel's inner growth not only improved his own well-being, but also created a ripple effect of peace in his family. Inner growth also involves cultivating compassion, not just for others, but for yourself. How often do we judge ourselves harshly, holding on to mistakes and shortcomings? Compassion begins with recognizing that you are a work in progress, deserving of patience and kindness. When you treat yourself with care, you create the emotional space to extend that compassion to others. Imagine a gardener who neglects their own well-being, working tirelessly to tend to others' gardens while ignoring their own. Eventually, their energy wanes and their garden withers. In the same way, nurturing your inner self allows you to give more generously to the world. When your own well is full, your acts of kindness flow naturally, without resentment or exhaustion. Gratitude is another powerful tool for inner growth. When you focus on what you have, rather than what you lack, you cultivate a mindset of abundance. Take a moment each day to reflect on something you're grateful for. A kind gesture, a peaceful moment, a personal strength. Over time, these reflections build resilience, helping you navigate life's challenges with grace. Let me share a visualization to anchor this idea. Close your eyes and picture a seed planted in fertile soil. Each day, it receives sunlight, water, and care. At first, the growth is invisible, hidden beneath the surface. But over time, the seed sprouts, its roots deepening and its stem reaching toward the sky. This is what inner growth looks like: gradual, steady, and deeply rewarding. As you walk your own path of growth, remember that it's not about perfection. There will be moments of doubt, setbacks, and frustration. But these challenges are part of the journey, shaping you into a stronger, more compassionate version of yourself. Trust in the process and celebrate each small step forward. The beauty of prioritizing inner growth is that it doesn't just benefit you, it inspires those around you. When you embody patience, mindfulness, and compassion, others take notice. Your calm becomes a source of stability, your kindness a source of encouragement. Just as a single candle can light a dark room, your inner growth can illuminate the lives of others. In the stillness of your own heart, you hold the key to lasting fulfillment. By focusing inward, you create a life rooted in authenticity and peace. So, as you tend to your inner garden, know that each seed you plant, each weed you pull, is a step toward a life of harmony and joy. Let the distractions of the world fade, and trust in the quiet power of your own growth. As we come to the end of this journey, I want to leave you with a simple truth. The answers you seek have always been within you. The teachings we've explored, cultivating inner peace, embracing solitude, releasing the need for approval, and focusing on your growth, are not just ideas. They are tools, waiting for you to use them, to carve out a life of meaning and fulfillment. Think about the moments in your life when you felt most at peace. Were they times when you met others' expectations, or when you followed the quiet wisdom of your own heart? The choice to focus on yourself is not about turning away from the world, but about grounding yourself so firmly that the world's chaos cannot uproot you. So, I leave you with this question. What small step can you take today to nurture your inner self? Maybe it's 5 minutes of mindfulness, a gentle affirmation, or simply choosing to let go of someone else's judgment. Whatever it is, take that step and then take another tomorrow. If this message resonates with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it. Leave a comment about your journey, your thoughts, or the challenges you're working to overcome. Let's build a community of growth, where we inspire and uplift one another. And if you found value in this, give it a like. It's a simple action that helps spread this message further. Remember, the most profound changes begin with a single moment of focus. Let this be yours.